another tutorial video. So a few months back, the company One Day Savings contacted me and asked me if I'd like to do a video with any of the products that they have on their website. And so I thought I'll have a look and see if there's anything on there. And I noticed this little furnace. So this is a wax melting sort of little tiny furnace or stove that is powered by a power bank. So it works brilliantly for whatever country you're in. It doesn't matter. It hasn't got a specific plug that goes in the wall. You just have the cord that comes with it, and then you use your own power bank that you have. Whether you buy a cheap one especially for this, whether you've already got one, you can just power it off of a little power bank. And basically what this is an alternative to either using your heat gun to melt your wax beads or using a furnace that has a candle, because I don't know about you, but I really don't like having open flames and stuff. I don't really like fire that much. So I love the idea of doing lots of wax melts and things, but I'm so wary of, like knocking the candle or, a piece of kitchen roll accidentally going near the flame of it or something. And I feel like it's quite a stressful situation to try and make your wax melt. Whereas if you have an electric one like this, it is so relaxed and it just is really lovely and calming to be able to create lots of different wax melts or wax sealed using the wax beads, using something like this that is just powered by a power bank rather than a flame. It does, I'm not sure how it compares time-wise for how quickly it would melt it. It's definitely slower than if you just used a heat tool directly on it. But I'm not sure how it compares to using a flame and using this, because I don't particularly like using flames. However, I didn't find that it was too slow or annoying, really, the amount of speed that it takes to melt things down. You can kind of mull over what you're going to do next, or, think about a different colour you want to try, something different you want to mix in. And the whole point of this tutorial is going to be using clear wax in a wax burner, but mixing it in with different mica pigments. The main tutorial is going to be mica pigment, and I've got some luscious powders from Indigo Blue and also some of the gorgeous Cosmic Shimmer iridescent mica pigments as well. But as I was pulling those out of my stash, I also thought, well, I wonder if you could mix glitter, polished silk glitter, into clear wax and whether it would actually be glittery, because I'm not sure. If you look at like a clear wax bead, it's kind of a little bit milky looking, so I just thought it would be an interesting experiment to see if you mix the wax in with this, or sorry, if you mix the glitter in with the wax, would it still actually be glittery, or would it just show as a colour rather than a glitter? And then I also thought, why not use embossing powders as well? I recently did a magazine commission. It's not come out yet, but there'll be a masterclass in an issue of Simply Cards and Papercraft, where I've used lots of embossing powders for different techniques. And one way of using embossing powders is, instead of wax, to create your little wax seals using any of the wax seals that you have. And One Day Savings also very kindly sent me, as well as the little furnace, one of these long wax seals. So it's a tiny little one and it's a gorgeous little paw print, and on the other end it is plain. So if you wanted a small little wax seal, you can use a plain end, or you've got the little paw print on the end, which I just think is really sweet. And obviously now I've got Pumpkin, and in the family we've got Pickle and Willow as well. It's nice to have a little paw print, because you could just stick that on the back of an envelope from one of the little dogs, and it makes a really nice dinky little sized seal as well, so you can get more out of your wax beads, but also it's not too large and bulky on a project as well, which is nice. And as well as them sending me these goodies, they've also given you a discount code. So if you go onto their website, everything will be linked below. There's the products that I've been sent that will be linked, the main link to the website, and also all of their wax seal stuff on their website. I'll also link that as well. And there's a 5% discount code, which is CRaFTi05 off. And that will be in the description box as well. They've given it to me in the capitals and lowercase that I write crafty in, because it's spelled out of elements on the periodic table. So it's capital C, capital R, lowercase a, capital F, capital T, lowercase I, and then 05 off. So I'm not sure if it is case sensitive or not, but I will put that in the description, so you can just copy and paste it onto the website to get your 5% off as well if you do want to buy anything. But basically, the tutorial is going to be, as I said, clear wax and then mixing in different things to see what kind of effects that we can get. I have been experimenting with this already. Obviously, I got a pink spoon with my paw print, but I bought a bunch of extra spoons because I thought I'm probably going to want to use these colours again. you know, I really like using rainbow kind of colours, and I thought, well, I've actually only bought clear wax beads and red wax beads. And this one was actually mixing the iridescent mica pigment from Cosmic Shimmer into red wax. So if you just have plain coloured beads, you can use your mica pigment powders or just your mica powders to turn them into a pearlescent wax as well if you want to. But then also these three and this one, well, these three were clear wax and the Cosmic Shimmer iridescent mica pigments, and this one was clear wax and a luscious powder. So all of them work for this kind of technique, and I bought a bunch of extra spoons. So I actually got the light pink spoon with the paw print little wax burner, and then I've bought all of the extra spoons, and this is the box that it comes in as well if you wanted to see it. You can get it in blue and pink. I went for the pink one because I like pink, but also they also had on their website a different burner that I would say looked as if it was about this size. It kind of looked like a mini pancake maker, and I was very tempted to get that one, but it had a European plug on it, so I wasn't sure how I could, you know, convert that into a UK plug. So I went for this one instead because I thought it's great to show everybody because you can just use a little power bank to power it. And actually, when I was playing with the powders before, a week or so ago, I had this on for, I'm sure it was at least an hour and a half, and only 1 pip went down on my battery, and I bought a 12 mega amp hours battery pack, so, you know, that's kind of how much battery it sort of uses. But these don't take very long to charge anyway, so you probably got fed up by from creating wax seals by the time your battery runs out, which is nice. I will also say you plug this in, so you put the USB-C into the back of this, you put the USB end into your power bank, and then you press the middle paw print. That's the little button that turns it on, and the light will come on. I'm not 100% sure what the light means because it seems to just cycle through different colours, then it stops on red for a bit and then it cycles through different colours, so I'm not sure if that actually indicates maybe when it's on solid red that means it's definitely got up to temperature. But I would say have this on for a little while before you want to properly start pouring out all of your wax seals, because it does take a little while initially to get it hot enough, but once it has got hot enough it's much quicker going as well. So I have already got a few things done, obviously, because I'm doing this project. There'll be a sped up video using all sorts of different blues and turquoises with the tiny little paw print to make a card for my mum's birthday from their dog Pickle. So that will be a sped up video as well. So I'm kind of preparing some of the spoons with the products in ready so that I can reheat them and use them to create lots of little paw prints. But I will make some paw prints in this video as well. But that's why I'm sticking to all of these different colours and why I want to do a bit of experimenting, because then it'll look different on the card. I'm thinking of putting 16 little paw prints, so a grid of 4x4 on the card. I think that's what I'm going to do. But basically I just want to do a bit of experimenting. So I've already made a spoon with some of the Luscious Pigment powder in, what colour is this? Mermaid Tresses. And then I also want to make some with the iridescent mica pigment from Helen Colebrook's collection. This one is the Marine Dream, so we'll go with this one first. Then I've also got another of the Luscious powders, which I might do off camera, and I've also got another Luscious powder too. This one's Rapunzel. Me and my mum shared a few pots of them, so I've got some in the real containers and some in little extra pots so that we could share the colours. And then I'll also try the glitter and just the embossing powder as well. I have a feeling the embossing powder might melt quicker, I think, maybe, or it might melt slower, I'm not sure, but we will see how that goes when we get there. So first of all, I want to put 3 little clear wax beads in here and just get them. You can see that's actually, I don't know if you can see, but it's already melting on there. I've left it on about 10 minutes to begin with to get it nice and hot, and then you can stir it with whatever you like really. You can use like a cocktail stick, you could use a kebab skewer, you can use the little metal spoon from Tonic, which is what I'm going to use to scoop my pigment powder out with. Or I also bought these recently. It was a set of 4 from Crafter's Companion. They've got a spoon on one end and a little spatula on the other end, and they're silicone, and they've got a stick in the middle so that they're hard in the middle. But I just found these quite useful when I was experimenting before. So what I was doing is I was melting about 3 pellets down first and getting them to be really nice and melted and liquidy. Then I was scooping in a lovely heaped scoop full of the powder, and then I was adding in a few more pellets, getting it all to melt and mixing it up really nicely. And when you put the powder in, you mix that in nicely, and then you put a few more pellets in to just bulk up the amount that you've got. But you kind of need less wax in there to begin with whilst you mix your powder in, so that it doesn't sort of overflow everywhere. So it's going pretty quickly, as you can see. I presume this would be comparable to using a flame, but as I say, I haven't actually tried it because I'm really not that keen on having open flames. But we can just keep poking it around so that it melts, or you can just leave it. I just like to poke it, so it doesn't really matter if you leave it or move it around. But it's pretty quick actually. Once you do let it heat up, it is pretty quick kind of process. And obviously if you get any on your spoon like this, once it has cooled, you can just take that off and put it back in, because it's a silicone spoon. So if you use something silicone, it's going to be really good for getting the wax back off of it to put back into your pot as well. So that's almost melted down now. It's mostly just that bit that I plopped back in there that's still melting. And then once it has melted, we're going to get some of the iridescent mica pigment, and I'm using my Tonic spoon and just doing a nice heaped sort of spoon there. You can definitely use your Arteza mica powders as well. However, these are new in my stash, and so are the Luscious powders, so obviously I wanted to play with the newer stuff in my stash rather than something that I've had for a while. So I'm just going to move the furnace out of the way so I don't make a mess on it, and I'm still in camera view for you. And then all I'm going to do is mix this in really well. You can make a little bit of a mess sometimes, so hence why, yeah, there you go, I've already made a mess on the desk. So that's why I don't want to do it over the top of the furnace, because then you'd have to clean that off as well. But you would just want to get it nice and mixed together. It will get obviously thicker because you put the powder in, which is cooling it down. You've taken it off the heat, which is cooling it down and everything. So get that nicely mixed together, and you've got a gorgeous teal colour here now. Take off the excess off the spoon. Then we'll get a piece of kitchen roll as well and dust off any of that excess powder. Make sure there's nothing on the bottom of your spoon, because you don't want to make your furnace dirty. Then we will actually dust that out of the way as well. Move the pot out of the way, we'll bring the furnace back in and then put that back in there to heat that back up. And we'll also add, let's do another 4 little pellets of wax in there as well. Okay, so now that is all lovely and melted, we can just stir that around to make sure everything's incorporated really nicely. And we can put this back in afterwards as well. Then I'll zoom you out a little bit further. We'll move this over to the side, and I've got a little piece of the Tonic Easy Clean mat. I had a larger one and I cut pieces down to be sort of A4 size, and then I had a few leftover bits, so I've just got one of the leftovers here because I feel like this is a nice surface to make your little wax seals onto. It does give them a texture on the back of it, but I think maybe that will help them stick better, because when you put glue behind it, it can kind of grip into those different textures that are on the back of it. So that's why I like to use the Easy Clean mat. So we can start pouring this one and do one little paw print, and then whilst we're doing that I'll put the next spoon on to heat up for our next experiment. So we can do a little puddle. Remember, this is a small wax seal, so you really don't need as much as you might think you would. And we can do that and then press this into it, although it's really heavy, so we're literally just going to drop it into there. And you get quite a nice little donut around the edge of these little paw prints as well. So I think this is probably cool. We can put this back into the spoon, and it's probably got enough residual heat. Sorry, you can't quite see that. It's probably got enough residual heat to make it stick to there, so that next time I want to use this colour, I've got enough in there and that will stay stuck into there. It's not going to fall out in the meantime, and I can remelt it and then use that to make some more, which you'll probably see in the sped up video as well. It stays molten for quite a while, which is nice. That means you can definitely pour a few if you've got some different ones that you want to use. But I specifically want to make quite a few of these paw prints, so I will keep that for the next time. I'm going to do some more of them. That should have cooled enough by now. And then I just like to use my little palette knife to pick that up. And we've got a gorgeous little paw print seal in that beautiful teal kind of colour as well. And obviously you can pick the detail out with any of your gilding polishes, your Gilded Touch, your Wax Lyricals, your Nouveau Embellishment mousses, the, I can't remember what they were called, the little waxes that Lisa Horton does as well. Any different waxes that you have, you can use to highlight that. Or if you have one of those pens as well. Or even actually just a metallic Sharpie would work to just draw over the details on there. So that's our first turquoisey colour. Obviously I will come back and make more of them to go with the main card. So I've got more than just one of each colour. So we will put 3 more pellets into this new spoon to go with our next colour. I do feel like it is very handy having lots of different spoons, and they're not too expensive. I don't know if One Day Saving sell these spoons, but I got my extra packs of spoons. I bought 2 extra packs of blue spoons and 1 extra pack of pink spoons, and you got 3 of them for $6.99, and they are the exact same spoon that came with the burner, which is why I went for those spoons. You probably can get other spoons cheaper, but I wanted the exact same one so that it would fit in there really nicely. And I just searched for wax melting spoons on Amazon and these popped up, so I got those ones. If they're still available, I'll put that link in the description as well. But I have a feeling I might have bought the last couple of sets of the blue ones, so I'm not sure if there's still any of those available. But if I can find them, I will put the link there for you. So the next one that we're going to play with, I'll move that spoon out of the way, I think is going to be the glitter. Let's go with the glitter and see what kind of effects that we get with this, and we can come back and do some more luscious powder if the video hasn't got too long by the time we've done the glitter and the ultra thick embossing crystals. But I just thought this is a nice way of showing you other ways to create different colours for all of your wax bead or wax seal projects, because when I was looking at buying the little wax beads, the little hexagonal wax beads, I was thinking, oh gosh, what colour set am I going to go for? If I go for a warm set, I'm inevitably going to want some cool colours, and if I go for a cool set, I'm going to want warm colours. If I just go for metallics, I'm going to want bright colours. So I thought, well, let's go for a clear pack. I did also get these on Amazon as well. It came with a pack of clear and a pack of red, because I thought red is the typical kind of colour, and I've got some Harry Potter wax seals and I want to do some like Hogwarts ones, and I feel like a red seal is going to be typical for a Hogwarts letter, so I thought it would be good to get the clear and red pack. So I thought, well, a clear pack you can just colour with whatever you want to, which is really lovely. So I was just sort of thinking, what kind of things could I melt into this? And obviously mica powders and stuff are your initial sort of thought, but I reckon you could try with your Brushos, your Pixie Bursts, which would give you just solid colours if you just wanted to turn your clear into a solid colour. But if you wanted to go with pearlescence as well, then obviously Pixie Powders, Nouveau Shimmer Powders and Pixie Sparkles could be great ways of adding it in as well, because I presume, because wax, when you melt it, it's kind of more like a wet consistency, it should activate those dye particles within Pixie Sparkles, Nouveau Shimmer Powders and Pixie Bursts. No, not Pixie Burst. Oh yeah, no, Pixie Burst too. I suppose and Brushos and Pixie Powders. So all of those should work into clear wax as well, but I thought I'd just do a few for this video. If you are interested in me trying those as well, then do let me know below the video, and I could always do a second tutorial on mixing those kind of dye powders into your clear wax as well. So we've got that melted now. You can see we were just talking whilst that was melting, and it really doesn't take too long at all. So I'm just going to clean my spoon off from before. Now I'm going to open this over here because there's glitter in the seal, and I don't want it to go all over my mat. So just going to open that carefully. This is really fine glitter, this, so we can just take a nice scoopful of polished silk glitter, which is a Cosmic Shimmer product. I don't know if it's heat stable. I would presume it's heat stable, but I don't actually know, so we will find that out as well whilst we're doing this. And I've got a lovely mess of glitter now. Just get a little dry dusting cloth to get rid of that. And then we can get our spoon and, oh, I'll take it out actually so I don't make a mess in there, and mix it in. And that looks gorgeous and glittery now, but we shall see what happens when it actually cools down, when we've added more wax into this to make a bigger quantity, and then when we actually turn it into our little paw print, we shall see how glittery that stays, or whether it goes back to being a bit more cloudy like the initial wax beads. Okay, so now that is all nicely melted and incorporated, it looks fantastic at the moment, but we shall see what this looks like when it cools down. I'm hoping it will work because obviously the mica-y ones, when they've cooled down, they still look mica-y. They don't get like the clear sort of, you know, the frosted waxy kind of look over the top of them. It does actually show the mica off, so I'm hoping the glitter will work, but we shall see what happens. So I'm going to take that off, put another spoon on, and then we can tip a little puddle out of this one and make one of our little paws with the gorgeous glitter. And place that little paw on top. Okay, then we're going to have to wait and see what happens with this. So we can take the excess of our wax off of here and put it back into our spoon because it's still nice and molten, so that's just going to stick back into there. And we can also take the excess that's dripped off underneath as well, put that back in. And whilst it's warm too, if we wipe the bottom of the spoon, then when we want to use it, again, it's going to be nice and clean, ready to put back into our wax burner as well. So we'll leave that spoon off to one side too. Okay, so I think that's been long enough. Oh, it looks like it's given a really good impression, but will it stay this beautiful and glittery? Looks fantastic at the moment. I mean, because it's cool, I reckon that is going to stay that beautiful and glittery. So we've now got a pearlescent way to change the clear wax, a glittery way to change the clear wax, and obviously if we tried it with a... Shall we just try it with the other thing? Let me go and get one of my pixie bursts. Okay, let's put 3 more of these in to melt. And then I've picked Green Jasper Pixie Burst, which Pixie Bursts are just the pigment powders, so they're kind of like a brusho. I think maybe finer granules than a brusho, because brusho sometimes has a bit larger granules in, I think. I haven't used them in ages, I only have a few colours of them, but I thought Green Jasper would go nicely with the colours that I'm thinking for this card, going with like the greens and the turquoises. It is a lovely turquoisey kind of green. It does have a tiny bit of purple in it, but I feel like when you homogenise the colour, you don't see the purple so much. So we'll just wait for these little wax beads to melt. And we shouldn't need much of this, and it should make a nice translucent colour actually as well. So we're going for an opaque pearlescent, an opaque glitter, and then hopefully a bit of a translucent colour. But actually, again, saying that, because they are cloudy when they're cool, it might go more opaque, but we shall see what happens. You know, because you never really know. You've got to kind of experiment to see what's going to happen. And obviously if you have different mica powders or glitters and things in your stash, then, you know, have a play with them, because you never know what you can do with them. And obviously we're just using 3 pellets first, then mixing in the gorgeousness into it. So you can just stop at that. You don't have to add another 4 pellets in to make a bigger amount. I just quite like having more, so that, I don't know, it's just sort of like, I feel like you get a better pour out of your spoon if you've got more in there. So you're not using your entire spoon each time you're pouring for a 1 wax seal. I feel like it glides out of the spoon better if there's still excess wax in there, if that makes any sense. But I'm no expert on making wax seals. I just enjoyed sort of having a play with this gorgeous little furnace. So that's almost melted down now. So you can see it is a pretty quick kind of process, which is really good. And you can just sit here and you don't have to worry about anything because there's no open flame. You don't have to think, oh gosh, the doorbell just went, I've got to blow the flame out. You can just leave it and come back. Obviously don't forget about it for ages because you'll overheat the wax, but you could press the button before you leave as well to turn it off, but much easier than having a candle, I think, anyway. So that looks like it is completely melted. I'm going to take the spoon out of there so I don't make a mess with the powder. And I'm going to carefully take the lid off because they often go poof everywhere, and then just put a couple of little taps in here and see if we can get a gorgeous translucent kind of colour. I am hoping that the wax is wet enough to activate the particles of colour, but maybe it's not. So maybe it is a good job that we tried, because I'm not sure that is actually activating those little particles of colour. Let's add a bit more in and see if that makes any difference. No, it's really not like activating. That is unusual, not what I was expecting. So it's going to be kind of like clear with little pigment particles within it. It really hasn't actually activated the dye particles, because if you've used pixie powders, pixie bursts, pixie sparkles before, the pixie powders and the pixie sparkles have dye pigment in them too, and so when you add water to them you activate those little granules of dye and it bursts out really nicely. But obviously melted wax is obviously not wet enough to be able to activate them, which I just presumed that it would work. So we'll just go with the 3 pellets on this one as it's just an experiment, and in that case I can show you how to clean your spoons out as well if you do want to change between each of your colours. So that was a good experiment to do. I'm glad I actually decided to do it. So I'm guessing you won't need another tutorial with all of those things because it doesn't work. So that's alright then. But there we go, we've got a nice, well, it's nicely mixed together, but it's just not what I thought it was. Although, it kind of looks like a bird's egg, or maybe vintagey. Maybe it'd be a cool technique for something vintagey then. It could be. That's interesting though. Okay, let's do a little paw print. Oh, I'm not sure if it's hot enough. It's just coming out. See if we can get one little translucent paw print out of it. That's just about enough. Put that on. We'll see what happens with that. If I wipe off the excess that's under there, and then to clean out your pot, I know it's a little bit of a waste, but to clean it out, your spoon, you just bunch up some kitchen roll and wipe the wax out whilst it is hot. And then you shouldn't burn yourself, and it will just clean the spoon out really easily. It's much easier to do it this way than it is to try and get it out of the spoon once it has dried. You can get a lump out of the spoon, but there's often lots of extra little bits that stay stuck on there that's hard to clean out. So there we go. We've now got a nice clean spoon ready for our next experiment, and I can just clean off this spatula as well. But that is kind of an interesting look. Not what I was expecting, but an interesting look nonetheless. So, very interesting. I might keep that in there to remind me. But yeah, really different kind of look. Was not expecting that. So they don't work in the way I thought. The clear wax is not a wet enough medium to be able to activate the dye particles, but it gives a different kind of look, vintagey kind of look. So let's see what this looks like. We have got that translucent effect, which is really nice. And you've just got the little speckles in there. That does look quite nice, actually. There we go. A different, like, vintagey kind of wax seal with little, kind of looks like grog in clay or something, with those little speckles, or like impurities in granite, or, you know, something like that. So, very interesting. I'm glad we tried that one. So, the next one to try, and probably the last one, I don't know if we'll have enough time to go back to the other two, but we will try, oh, let me tell you what the name is. Oh gosh, I'm making a right mess here. I'll tell you what the name is first. So this is Cobalt Sky. So this one has got mica in it, and it's also ultra thick embossing crystals, and I've made a right mess. It must have all gone round the thread of the lid on that one. I don't think they sell their ultra thick embossing crystals anymore, but I know Indigo Blue do have some mixes, so if you don't mind a mottled marbled kind of look with different colours mixed in, you can use those. Or WoW also do ultra high powders as well, but I have quite a few of these gorgeous large pots of the embossing crystals like this, so I am going to use these for this kind of a thing because you've got a nice lot of it there. So I've just put 3 or 4 spoonfuls into there, and I have a feeling, I'm predicting that it will melt quicker because the particles are much smaller than a wax bead, but I don't know if the melting point of embossing powder is higher or lower than the melting point of a wax bead. So we can experiment with that together and see what happens. Okay, let's give it a little stir, see if anything started to happen. A little bit maybe. So this might not be hot enough to melt embossing powder, but I do think if it's not hot enough, you could use it in conjunction with using embossing powders, but initially melt it with a heat tool and then use this to keep it molten. You know, melt with a heat tool from underneath, and then you can keep it molten by putting it back in this little warmer that's been on. I think that could be, if this doesn't melt, then that could be a way of doing it. Or, it might just take a little bit longer than the wax. So I'll come back when that's doing anything. So I don't know if you can see the difference on camera, but it's not really hot enough to melt it. It's kind of making it clump together, kind of like wet sugar or something, or wet sand. So it's not really like hot enough to melt it, but I will show you what I was just saying, that we could use our heat tool to melt it and then just use the furnace to kind of keep it warm whilst we're like pouring one, putting the stamp on and waiting. You can put it back in here to keep it molten. So the way you would you can do this just normally. If you don't want a little burner like this, you can just get the spoons or use metal little like pie dishes, like for jam tarts and stuff, or little apple pies that you can get. Those little pie dishes work really nicely as well. But if it's not hot enough to melt this, we can just go from underneath with our heat tool and get it to melt. So I'll speed this bit up so you don't have to hear the heat tool. Okay, so hopefully you could see in that sped up bit how the heat tool melted that. I can't really tip it at the right angle for you to be able to see it really well without pouring it out, but that's nice and molten now, so we can put that in there and hope that that would keep it nice and molten for us, so that we could pour a few paw prints. So should we actually do that together, because I want a few paw prints. So let's pour one and then put that back in, wipe the spout portion first so we don't make a mess of our little furnace, and then put that back in to keep warm whilst we work with these. Oh, I left that too long and it got too cold. Okay, we're going to have to put that back in there. I don't know if that's going to melt it if we put it back in, or we could just carry on to the next one. But if you are putting things back in to anything like this, if you have been using embossing powder, or if you're using the wax beads and you want to use your heat gun to melt them, you can go from the top, because your heat gun's not going to have enough power to blow a wax bead out of the spoon, so you can go from the top for that. But with actual crystals of embossing powder, you want to go from the bottom so you don't just blow it everywhere. So I don't know how well this is going to look. Oh, it actually worked really well, but it's just got a blobby edge because of how long I'd left it. And this doesn't actually have that much of a pearlescent sheen in it. It's quite a solid kind of colour, but really pretty. So we've now got different variations there. of all of those different ones, and that has stayed nice and sparkly. So adding glitter to clear wax does work. So that is a very good thing to know if you want to make any sparkly waxes. Or I presume it would work with coloured wax as well, you know, adding some glitter to some coloured wax. So if you want to make some really sparkly Christmassy ones and you've got like a plain red, you could add some mica and maybe some glitter as well, or just add glitter or just add mica to the red beads to make them really pretty too. Okay, let's see if this is still hot enough. No, it's not hot enough. Isn't that funny? So that little furnace, it will melt your wax, but it's not hot enough to melt your embossing powder. If you want to do the embossing powder ones, you're going to have to use your heat tool to melt it. And it's not even hot enough just to rest the spoon on there to keep it warm either. So that's a very good note to know. This is specifically for wax. Because oh, it does say sealed wax electric furnace, so it is definitely just for wax rather than embossing powder as well. So that is very good to know. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial video. I'm not quite sure the length of it because I keep stopping and starting the footage, but hopefully it's been helpful to see this gorgeous little electric wax burner rather than having to use a candle, but also experimenting with your clear wax beads and adding different things to them. So this one is an iridescent mica pigment from Cosmic Shimmer, which I have done an up close video on, which will be coming out in a few weeks time. Because I'm away over September, I've been scheduling videos. This one is coming up with all of those, but that's using that kind of powder. You can definitely use your luscious powders as well. I have done that already, and I'm going to do a couple more colours to go with that sped up video that will be up at some point as well. You can add your polished silk glitters. This one is lime. You can add your pixie bursts, which give a vintage kind of effect, not the effect that I thought we were going to get, but a cool effect nonetheless. And then the electric wax burner does not work for embossing powder. It does not keep the embossing powder hot enough. So it's a very nice thing to know that this is specifically just for your wax beads and things. So very nice little burner, and thank you very much to One Day Savings for sending it to me as well. And don't forget, there'll be links to their website and the specific products that they've sent me, plus also the main generic wax seal page on their website as well, plus there'll be the 5% off discount code too. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Watch out for that sped up video. It's probably going to come out in a few days after this one, but I'm going to be making tons of these little paw prints in there, making a little birthday card for my mum from their dog Pickle. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!